always wanted. For example, is it logical and healthy for one to give up a well-paid job that promises wealth despite it being boring? Is it normal for one to break away from a relationship that is not fulfilling as it once was and risk loneliness? Okay, now this is an interesting question because this is one of the key things that I would say as far as stepping out of what's comfortable is concerned. Now, this is one of the things that I say is hugely important for people. Stepping out of what's comfortable doesn't mean running away. Okay, it doesn't mean running away from your feelings. It doesn't mean running away from certain situations. In this particular scenario, so for example, is it logical and healthy for one to give up a well-paid job that promises wealth despite it being boring? The fact is how I see it is, once you have mastered something, so for instance, if it's boring, it's a case of mastering it where it's not boring, where it becomes something where you have a balance. So often if you're bored in one area, it indicates that you have an imbalance in another. So you need to include something else in your life which gives you that sense of balance. The fact is that if you master it where it isn't boring anymore, then you're choosing to change something from a neutral space. That is stepping outside of what is comfortable, because what you're doing is you're embracing it until it becomes something that's okay. Same goes with a relationship. So is it normal for one to break away from a relationship that is not fulfilling as it once was and risk loneliness? You only risk loneliness in terms of running away. If it's just a simple situation where a relationship isn't as fulfilling as it used to be, in terms of maybe communication isn't as good as it used to be, or some part of it has disappeared, if you then work on yourself enough to restore the relationship within the self so it's reflected in the external world, you'd be amazed how some people can adjust when you haven't said a word to them, but something inside of you has adjusted that has been very much directed towards your own sense of worth, your own sense of self-esteem, and you'd be amazed how quickly other people start to treat you differently when you improve your own internal world. So at that point, and I say it's at that point when you have really mastered your own internal world in terms of you haven't run from it, you stuck it out, and that's moving outside of your comfort zone, is to stick with something until it becomes neutral. And I don't mean things that are derogatory to your own well-being. I mean when you master something where the personality feels even, it feels comfortable, because exactly at that point is where you have choice. Because if you break away from something before you've healed it, you very much face an opportunity, a situation, we call it an opportunity, a situation where you're repeating it. You find yourself in another scenario very similar where you repeat it, and quite often in a stronger way, until you look to heal it. And it's looking often, 9 times out of 10, it's looking for the healing internally. It's not about externalizing it. It's about finding the healing within the self that restores an element of self-worth and esteem. And I'm not talking about staying in a relationship that is completely detrimental to your own well-being. I'm talking about when something needs adjustment, where it's not something that's threatening your physical well-being. I'm talking about where it's something that will help your soul energy to grow. And often in those situations, you find that it's quite tricky to change it, because something kind of keeps you there. And the thing that's keeping you there in those types of situations is your soul's desire to grow from it and then find the